It was a quiet, rainy night, and the boy was about to go to bed, but he had to finish his math lesson. Concentrating on the problems, he suddenly heard a knock on the window. At first he thought it was raindrops, but the sound was too rhythmic and insistent. He slowly approached the window and was horrified. Behind the glass stood a creepy monster that looked like a giant eye with legs. The boy jumped back, his heart hammering in his ears. The monster was pounding louder and louder, its gaze fixed and piercingly clear, as if it were searching for an entrance to the house and to the most secret corners of the boy's soul. Paralyzed with fear, the boy could not scream or run. He stood huddled against the wall, watching as the creature began to circle the house, looking for another way in. Suddenly, the lights went out. The boy felt the darkness envelop him, and the air grew thicker, charged with terror and a premonition of something inevitable. He heard the monster begin to scratch at the walls of the house, as if trying to find a way to get inside. The sounds grew louder and closer until they stopped right outside his room door. The boy, gathering all his strength, crept to the door and blocked it, trying to slow down the inevitable. But the monster was persistent. From his blows, the door began to crack at the seams. At the last moment, when the boy had already lost all hope, he remembered the ancient amulet his grandmother had given him. Pulling it out, the boy whispered an incantation passed down from generation to generation. A light flashed in the room and the sound suddenly died down. The boy cautiously opened the door, but the monster was gone. It had disappeared as suddenly as it had appeared. Only a wet footprint remained where the creature had stood, like a reminder of the night the boy had come face to face with his fears. The morning came bright and crisp, but the air in the house still vibrated with last night's anxiety. The boy sat at the breakfast table, trying to figure out if it was real or if it was all a dream. But the wet footprint on the windowsill was an all too real reminder of the night's events. He decided to tell his parents what had happened, but they only smiled and advised him to read less scary stories before bed. Finding no support, the boy turned to the only person he thought would believe him, his grandfather. The grandfather was known in the family for his stories about the unexplained and mysterious. Listening to his grandson, the old man nodded gravely and stared intently at the wet trail on the window. "You ran into a watchman," grandfather said quietly, looking through the glass into the distance. "A being who is the guardian of the threshold between our world and what lies beyond. It rarely shows itself to humans unless it feels threatened or needs warning." The boy looked at his grandfather with doubt and fear. To warn? From what? Sometimes such beings appear when they feel that someone or something has upset the balance between worlds. "You may have unknowingly done something that caught its attention," grandfather explained, lighting an ancient lamp that illuminated his many different amulets on the shelves. "But how do I make sure it doesn't come back?" the boy asked, feeling fear slowly giving way to curiosity. "We need to restore the balance," said the grandfather, rising from his chair. "Tonight you and I will perform a ritual that will strengthen the defenses of your home and yourself against unwanted visitors from other worlds." That evening, under his grandfather's guidance, the boy learned to make amulets, read protection spells, and understand the importance of respecting and not violating the boundaries between worlds. Since then, The monster has not appeared again, but deep down the boy knew that the world was full of mysteries he had yet to explore. That night was the beginning of his journey as a paranormal investigator, and the boy who had once been afraid of knocking on the window now looked forward to more encounters with the unknown. Each new night brought with it anticipation. The boy, now in possession of his grandfather's knowledge, became more attentive to the world around him. He began to notice signs and symbols that he had previously ignored: strange images in the fog, the whispering of the wind that seemed like words. Even the paths of the birds above the house now seemed more than just migration. Over time, the boy became a teenager, and his interest in the paranormal turned into a passion. He set up a small laboratory in his room, where he collected all the tools to investigate the unexplained: old maps, books on the occult, dictaphones to record EVP's electronic voice phenomena, and even a small telescope to observe the night sky. His first serious research was to investigate a local legend about the ghost of Old Miller, seen in the vicinity of a ruined mill at the edge of the woods. Armed with a camera and recorder, he went there one night to gather evidence of the ghost's existence. The boy spent the entire night there, and although the ghost never showed up, he recorded several unexplained sounds that could not have been created by wind or animals. He later shared his findings with a small circle of friends who were also into the paranormal. Together they founded a club of lovers of mysticism, where they exchanged stories, theories, and planned joint expeditions outside the city in search of the unknown. Over the years, the boy's interest turned into a real profession. He became a famous researcher of paranormal phenomena, whose work was published in scientific journals and attracted the attention of television. But despite all the success and recognition, he never forgot the night he first encountered the watchful eye. That event changed him forever, reminding him that there was much more to the world than could be understood or explained through science. He would often return to his childhood home, stand at the same window and gaze into the darkness, searching for the look that had once made his heart freeze with fear. But now there was no room for fear in his heart, only endless curiosity and a thirst for knowledge of what lay beyond the visible world. One autumn night, when the leaves whispered about the mysteries of the past, he was again at the window of his childhood room. This time his gaze was fixed on the forest that stretched behind the house, engulfed in darkness and mystery. Suddenly, a faint light appeared between the trees, as if someone or something was watching him from afar. The light flickered, getting closer, and soon he could distinguish its source. It was the same eye, but this time it was not alone. The boy, now a grown man, felt the old familiar fear, but it was replaced by a determination to understand what these creatures wanted from him. He left the house and made his way towards the forest, where the shimmering eyes gathered around him in a dance of strange and eerie light. They formed a circle, and in the center appeared a portal leading into the unknown. His grandfather's voice in his head warned him to beware of portals between worlds, but curiosity took over. The man stepped forward and the darkness engulfed him. He found himself in a world where reality was distorted, full of shadows and whispering inhuman voices. Eye-like creatures hovered around him, their gazes penetrating, studying his soul. Suddenly, from the depths of the darkness, a creature appeared, more majestic and terrifying than anything he had seen so far. Its eyes were like stars going out in the night, and its body was covered with rippling shadows. "You have come," his voice was like an echo from another dimension, "but are you ready to find out what you seek?" The man realized that before him was the guardian of the threshold, the keeper of knowledge between worlds. He asked him the question that had plagued him all his life: what lies beyond our understanding? The creature smiled, terrifying and mysterious, and in response only opened his portal wider, revealing a world of chaos and beauty, horror and majesty that the human mind could not contain. When the man returned to his world, he was no longer the same. The eyes that had seen what was hidden from the world of the living burned with a new light. But with this knowledge came a price: eternal loneliness, for he could share what he had seen with no one. His soul had been marked by the meeting between worlds, and now he was part of their mystery, a guardian and witness to something that remains beyond the comprehension of ordinary mortals.